This is Monday Morning Pastors. Me and JK, we're going to talk about preaching and things about preaching. And yesterday was a good day. We did some new stuff, so it was fun.
It was a great day. You preached from Psalm 17. We entitled this second sermon in our Asking God series, Mike. You called it Deliver Us. We were off tape just a second ago talking about the unique part of yesterday. You preached 5 times.
Yeah.
I'll just throw that your way and let you talk about it.
So yesterday, those of you that go to Eastview know we've got another venue now that's called the Sanctuary, and our plan is, Lord willing, come the 13th of September, we'll do 2 services simultaneously at 9 o'clock in the Worship Center, which is our bigger venue, and then the Sanctuary, which seats about 700. So yesterday was our practice. So 8 o'clock service, I preached in the big house and ran down the back hallway and got in there in time to preach again. So 5 sermons. And again, I think this is another thing that when you don't talk about in preaching a lot, you don't talk about the technicality of it.
Right.
But the things about like the way you speak, how much your throat is sore at the end of those times, you're speaking from your diaphragm. Oh, it's going to be a great Monday morning, Pastor. You realize after a day of preaching 5 times, wow, that took a toll on the voice. And so you just kind of become aware of those things. But the energy was good, and the newness of the place was awesome, and the intimacy was really cool. So it made for a fun day.
I wanted to chase several questions, Mike, but I'm just going to jump right in. You, as far as I know, in our 4 years that we've done Monday Morning Pastor, I've never asked you about this.
Okay.
I want to tie together the topic of preaching and spiritual warfare. You opened yesterday with a story. You unfolded it from Saving Private Ryan. And I want to start there. Instead of choosing to play a video, you decided, I'm going to just unfold it. Why did you do that?
Well, I just think videos are great if they nail exactly what you want to have happen. The thing that I'm careful with videos, JK, is that even though we have great kids programs here and those kind of things, you could show the opening scene to Saving Private Ryan, and some people will go, "Hey, my 10-year-old was in there." And so when I describe it verbally, and I think there's something in the pretend mind that is able to picture something differently when and I tried to really craft some phrases there about the blood-stained ocean lapping up on the bodies and the bullets whizzing by.
Got our
all those
imagination.
Get your imagination going. I think everybody, most of the people, when I said, "Hey, Saving Private Ryan opening scene," most people went, "Oh man, that was intense." I mean, we all kind of remember it. But then as I started describing it, what I wanted them to see is that you're really in that kind of battle, you just don't know it. And so that was the opening there. So that's why I opted not to do the video thing. Could have, and many people do that, and it would have been a good option to do that.
Okay, again, I want to stick with this theme of preaching and spiritual warfare. Did you notice anything at all, Mike, about your own soul, your own preparation? Sometimes when we know that we're going to dive into something that deals with this spiritual conflict piece, things happen. Did you notice anything?
I think there's a part of you that has kind of a fear when you're preaching something like this, because you're going, hey, you're preaching against Satan and his warfare in your life. How well do you think he wants you to preach the sermon? How do you think he wants your week to go in terms of relationships with just in home, with your kids, with your spouse, or with coworkers, or things at work and disappointments and those kind of things? So there was kind of a heightened awareness when you're talking about Satan, the adversary, shooting arrows at you, and he's scheming against you, and he hates you, and he's a liar. You become this heightened sense of awareness that he's battling against the sermon, right? I really felt it on Saturday night when I came in and I prayed in the auditorium. I just sensed a battle. I sensed it. And we should be aware of it all the time, but just when you preach sermons like this, you certainly are. So
and I know, without insulting any of our listeners, there are preachers who they go right into their sermon without any readiness. And I really sensed that you had prayed yourself full.
Absolutely,
so,
I felt more like, hey, it's one thing to say, I know Satan's there all the time and he's messing with us, but I said this yesterday. I said, if you're a follower of Satan, or if you're following the world, Satan doesn't care about you. If you're following God, then he really hones in on his attack on you. And I think that's what was happening this week. I felt like you better be prepared, because you're going right at the guy that your church is against. So yeah, I did feel a need to pray in a different way.
Well, I
heading into
loved,
that.
Mike, getting right into the nuts and bolts. I love how tight the structure of the sermon was. Big idea, deliver us, and then you talked about deliver us from the deadly enemy, deliver us from the accusation of the adversary, deliver us, I love this, deliver us from the lion lurking. Now, those are real pictures using metaphors.
Right,
I just wanted to give you a chance to talk about that.
Well, again, I just thought, I said this to you last week as I was studying for this this sermon. Satan and the devil are everywhere in the Scripture.
Yeah.
It really is amazing how you just kind of skim over those passages until you start doing a word search and you go, wow.
Yeah.
All through, David's poor decision to number of people, Zechariah's vision. Satan in Jesus' life, he's everywhere.
Yeah.
And so that kind of made me think, okay, what picture can I paint for people that they'll understand? And obviously the one that's used the most in the Psalms and even in 1 Peter is the picture of the lion.
Yes.
And I think we can all kind of get that. I talked about the Nat Geo.
Yeah.
I almost referred or used a video reference that our college pastor, Charlie, talked about because he actually described this lion hunt that was on National Geographic or one of those shows. Again, I opted just to talk about, we've seen that. We've seen a lion on the hunt. Yeah. And if you understand Satan's just kind of lurking, ready to jump at you when you least expect it, that was really easy for me to take that into our spiritual lives and figure that out. Accusations, enemy, and a lion, those are really, I think, a very, very easy way to illustrate what Satan does in our life.
Okay, our viewers, those who watch this routinely, Mike, will recognize that sometimes I bring you back to this same topic. I only want to look at it just a slightly different way. If preaching is by design, good news sharing, why is preaching on spiritual warfare so vital? How is it a part of that good newsing?
Yeah. I think just bluntly, just answer that question is because Jesus has overcome Satan. Yeah. So it's good news to know that you have an enemy. You can't change that, by the way.
Right.
But there's a couple things that I didn't say in yesterday's sermon that just didn't make the cut that I wish I had. One was this, and it was kind of in the Job story. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken away. If there's a God that has given us something that's so good that when Satan takes it away or destroys it, it hurts us, then how good is that God?
Yeah.
Right? Who eventually is going to give us something eternal that Satan can't mess with. How good is that going to be? Right? So even in the midst of our pain, we can go, okay, this only hurts because God gave us something good.
Right.
Even God is good in the midst of the pain.
Right.
I think Job kind of caught a glimpse of that. The other thing is, really, this goes back to Genesis 3:15. The whole battle with Satan goes back to Genesis 3:15.
Right.
Satan, his offspring is going to mess with the offspring of the woman. And of course, that's obviously filled in Jesus Christ. So it's good news. And Satan is going to battle us. That's the reality of the fallen world that we live in. And the victory, though, the serpent's head will be crushed, has been crushed in the cross. Yeah. And now we live in anticipation of that final victory.
You're sparking something in me, Mike. I wasn't even going to talk about this before we come to the end, but one of the things I most resonated with was the way in which you invited us to remember that a lot of people, when they're going through difficult seasons, will say, "Where's God?"
Right.
And you said that's not the real question.
The real question is, where's Satan?
Yeah.
Because if you understand pain and suffering and the fallenness of this world, then every bad thing that happens, you should not be looking for, hey, why isn't God here? You should be looking and saying, where's Satan in this?
What's his strategy?
And when you understand his strategy, then you're able a lot of times, and there have been times in my life, in ministry or just in life in general, where you have one of those Job days. You think it's a Job day. It's not a real Job day. We have 2 or 3 things in a row happen. It happens to me a lot as a preacher on those important Sundays, those ones like Easter Sunday. And sometimes I just literally say out loud, okay, Satan, I get it. You're messing with me. And you can't have me because Jesus has got me. So I think if you're aware of that, it helps you pray in a different way.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that you can take that into the week with you guys and pray in the spiritual realm. Pay attention to what Satan's up to in your life and be on watch and pray against it. God bless you. Have a good one.